and welcome to World Konnect, your window to the world, the one-stop show which tells you precisely all that's happening the world around. From top stories from Asia, we get you the stories from Africa. We also will be traveling from Europe to Americas and of course get you all the news related to glitterati and a very, very touching story that will touch your heart. All that and much more on World Konnect. I'm Sakal Bhatt and let's kickstart this edition with the top focus. 5 months after the Paris terror attacks that claimed nearly 130 lives, main suspect Salah Abdel Salam arrested in Belgium. 5 years into the war, Syria finally sees some hope as cessation of hostilities appear. Shaping up, Russia begins withdrawal of troops, saying situation is improving. Meanwhile, UN says progress on peace talks between Syrian government and opposition slow. Tension in Republican camp rises as Donald Trump consolidates his lead but suffers crucial defeat in Ohio to Governor John Casey. Many see Casey as a trump card against Trump. And on the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton is far ahead of Bernie Sanders. It takes 90 years for a US president to cover the 90 miles to Cuba. Barack Obama to embark on a historic trip to the South American nation to clear the past baggage of tension and rivalry. And a tale of hope as little Ahmed, sole survivor of West Bank arson attack, meets his idol Cristiano Ronaldo. First up in Euro Essence. Nearly after 5 months of deadly Paris terror attacks, Belgian police have arrested the main suspect, Salah Abdel Salam. He was arrested with 4 others during counter-terror raids in Brussels. Special federal police forces arrested Abdel Salam, who has been on the run since November 13 attacks. French President François Hollande said that he expected Abdel Salam to be extradited to France as rapidly as possible. The raid in the district of Molenbeek came after Abdel Salam's fingerprints were found in a flat in another Brussels district, which was raided on Tuesday. Abdel Salam, who Belgian authorities described as the most wanted man in Europe, was discovered in a raid in an ordinary terraced townhouse a mile from Brussels city centre. A passenger jet crashed in southern Russia with nearly all 60 passengers and crew on board. According to Russia's emergencies ministry, a Boeing 737-800 crashed during wee hours on Saturday at the airport in Rostov while landing after a flight from Dubai. The aircraft had to abandon an initial attempt to land and came down while making a repeat attempt. It is not clear what caused the crash, but poor visibility and high winds are being considered as a factor. Most of the passengers on board were Russians. Well, after initial rift and divides, Turkey and European Union have finally agreed on a deal on the migrant crisis. As per the deal, migrants will return to Turkey in exchange for aid and political concessions to Ankara. The approved deal intends to halt illegal migration flows to Europe, and the accord aims to close the main route over which 1 million migrants and refugees poured across the Aegean Sea to Greece before marching north to Germany and Sweden in the last year. From midnight Sunday, migrants arriving in Greece will be sent back to Turkey if their asylum claims is rejected. EU nations in return will resettle Syrian migrants living in Turkey. Though the deal has been welcomed by some, deep doubts continue to remain about whether it is legal or workable. Turkish police arrested several suspects in connection with the deadly blast that rocked Ankara last week. At least 37 people were killed while more than 200 injured in the attack, which was claimed by Kurdish militants Kurdistan Freedom Hawks or TAK. The suicide car bomb tore through a transport hub just a few hundred meters away. It was the second such attack in a month in the city, leaving residents of the Turkish capital reluctant to venture out. And the news topping the America Chronicles is, of course, the latest from the primaries. The Super Tuesday Part 2 unfolded dramatically this time around. In the Democratic camp, Hillary Clinton continues to rule the roost. And on the Republican frontrunner, Donald Trump's loss in Ohio to Governor John Kasich has put into focus a possible favorite in the Republican camp.
The US presidential election scenario unfolded this week with lots of twists and turns as 5 states voted in the primaries held on Tuesday. New hope for Republicans in the form of Ohio Governor John Kasich, withdrawal of Republican favorite and Florida Senator Marco Rubio, slump in Bernie Sanders' race to the White House. With 2 winner-takes-it-all states in contest, this week saw it all and promises much more. In the Democrat side, Hillary Clinton, with wins in 4 states including Florida and Illinois, has put up almost insurmountable lead ahead of Bernie Sanders. A total of 2,383 to win, Clinton has to win just a third of delegates from states yet to vote. Her eyes firmly set on the White House race. After the victorious Tuesday, Hillary Clinton took a dig on Republican frontrunner.
Our commander-in-chief has to be able to defend our country, not embarrass it. When we hear a candidate for president call for rounding up 12 million immigrants, banning all Muslims from entering the United States, when he embraces torture, that doesn't make him strong, it makes him wrong.
Already 400 delegates down, Democratic presidential hopeful Bernie Sanders has just 26 superdelegates on his side as opposed to Hillary Clinton's 467. Sanders, however, remained undeterred as he continued to take his campaign forward. He still sees a way to the Democratic presidential nomination and his hopes lie with the upcoming contest in the West. On course to a resounding victory on Tuesday, winning 4 out of 5 primaries, Republican frontrunner Donald Trump knocked off Marco Rubio from the race. The Florida senator, after losing his home state to Trump, withdrew from presidential campaign. With 673 delegates at hand, Trump now needs 564 delegates from the remaining contests to ensure his nomination before Republicans' Cleveland convention in July. However, Trump's loss in the key state of Ohio to Governor John Kasich has put into focus a possible favorite in the Republican race.
And I would not write off John Kasich as the new establishment candidate. Now that Rubio's out of it, Kasich can emerge as the establishment candidate, and if the party gets behind him, that can really start to turn this into a real 3-way race that establishes enough support for his candidacy that he may be a better candidate for Republican.
After this critical win on his home turf, John Kasich kicked off a new phase for his long-shot presidential campaign. Will it take him past Donald Trump by triggering a rare contested convention in July? It is yet to be seen, and so the primaries continue on 22nd of March.
US President Barack Obama is visiting Cuba next week, and the first such visit of a US president comes after nearly 90 years. The historic event is aimed at infusing a fresh thaw in relationship between the neighbors who had a bitter past. The visit, in fact, may serve as a strong ground to lift a US embargo.
From cars to buildings, US flags all over Havana speak it all about city's mood to welcome a very special and unusual guest, the President of United States, Barack Obama. Obama's visit from March 20th to 22nd becomes a reality shortly after the 1-year mark since normalization of the ties between US and Cuba began in December 2014. It took 88 years for a US president to cover the distance of 90 miles between the Caribbean island nation and the state of Florida. Last time, it was way back in 1928 when former President Calvin Coolidge visited Cuba. The new thaw in ties came after a huge price of more than a half-century-old deep freeze that dated to 1st of January 1959 when rebels led by brothers Fidel and Raul Castro toppled the US-backed government of Fulgencio Batista. The Castros halted the long-time US-friendly business climate in Cuba and drew ever closer to the Soviet Union. In 1960, as Fidel Castro led Cuba nationalize all US businesses without compensation, Washington responded with breaking off diplomatic relationship with Havana and imposed a trade embargo. As the baggage of tense past kept growing, new era of warming in US-Cuba ties began when Barack Obama came to power in 2008. In Cuba as well, Raul Castro, the younger brother of veteran Fidel Castro, inherited the presidency. The US lifted restrictions on family travel and remittances to Cuba in 2009. It was during Obama's first tenure in 2010 when an American ballet theater visited Cuba for the first time in 50 years, a significant cultural exchange. In 2011, the US freed Cuban agent Rini Gonzalez, who was convicted of spying. In December 2014, Cuba also released a US citizen, Alan Gross, who was accused of spying and was serving a 15-year term. President Obama's second term marked an unprecedented development in US-Cuba ties in July 2015 when both the nations reopened their embassies. And as Obama steps on the Cuban land, the two nations look towards a new beginning.
And diplomacy, including having the courage to turn a page on the failed policies of the past, is how we've begun a new chapter of engagement with the people of Cuba.
Many Cubans pinning hopes to President Obama's visit believe that change will be for good.
Necesita una mejoría.
Cuba needs improvements, and I think with relations between Cuba and the United States improving, we will see it.
Ahead of the visit, the Obama administration announced further easing of trade and travel sanctions against the communist-ruled nation. The measures now make it easier for Americans to travel to Cuba for educational and business purposes. Also, the Caribbean countries' access to US financial institutions has been expanded. During the visit, the US president will make a historic address to the people of Cuba. He will also hold a meeting with his Cuban counterpart, Raul Castro. Obama is also scheduled to meet Cuban dissidents.
Well, he lives at the world's end with water surrounding him all over. This is the story of Jose Ugallo and his family. Ugallo volunteered for a year to keep watch over a lighthouse about the treacherous Drake Passage at Cape Horn in South America in order to spend more time with his family. Added to that, the Chilean sailor now holds the symbolic title of Mayor of the Sea of Cape Horn. This is his story.
At the world's end, surrounded by the oceans, just two buildings around, battered by winds reaching up to 100 kilometers per hour. The nearest town more than 5 hours by boat. That's home for 36-year-old Jose Aguayo and his family. Aguayo volunteered for a year to keep watch over a lighthouse above the treacherous Drake Passage at Cape Horn in South America in order to spend more time with his family. Added to that, the Chilean sailor now holds the symbolic title of Mayor of the Sea of Cape Horn.
The kids motivated me to come because they wanted to be with their dad at home. And with my job as a sailor, I am at sea a lot.
So now Jose has his family around him all the time. His wife helps him with the job. The pair take care of completing observation tasks and sending weather bulletins every 3 hours. The kids are homeschooled, and their main source of entertainment, like every other child around the world, is television. The family has a phone and internet access. Their supplies are provided by the army. And with busy Atlantic on one side and Great Pacific on the other, the Aguayos are content with their residence.
It's an unusual post in a sense that there's a lot of traffic control and a lot of visitors during the summer. But we are doing well. So far we have had 4,000 visitors to the island, and people ask me how I can still be smiling.
No doubt, staying in solitude is a difficult task, but achieving a work-family balance in today's world is so much more. And Jose Aguayo has done just that.
Well, in Inside Asia, the world powers are making substantive efforts to infuse some stability and peace in civil war-torn Syria, which continues to confront the escalating effects of turmoil, conflict and, of course, the refugee crisis. United Nations Special Envoy for Syria is making an all-out effort to get both the sides on the same page, the government and the opposition, so as to derive some common understanding of a smooth political transition.
5 years into a civil war, Syria still struggles to find a solution to the internal crisis gripping the nation. A US-Russia brokered ceasefire largely in place, world powers are still trying to chart out a long-standing deal to end the conflict. United Nations Special Envoy for Syria this week met with the government and opposition representatives of the war-torn nation to find a way ahead. Though both the sides have now drawn up an agreement on the need to maintain territorial integrity of the country and rejected a federal system, the distance between the Syrian government and the opposition was still large.
We can see already on the principles. What we need to see is some beginning of common understanding of political transition.
A main concern for both warring sides is the issue of Syrian Kurds. The opposition remains firm that the Syrian Kurds' declaration of a federal system was illegitimate and unacceptable. Meanwhile, Russia has started with the partial withdrawal of its troops from Syria. Vladimir Putin said Russia's military success in Syria had prompted his action, but stressed the Kremlin could scale up its presence again within hours and will continue airstrikes. Even as there are speculations on Moscow's rift with President Bashar al-Assad, Putin said the partial withdrawal had been agreed with the Syrian government.
The decision to withdraw a large part of our servicemen and equipment was agreed with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, who was informed about our plans in advance and supported them.
With a concrete solution yet to shape up, humanitarian crisis continues to worry the UN and the world community. Aid convoys are still being blocked from delivering nutrition supplies to some besieged areas, while migrants continue to leave the country in large numbers.
Myanmar's parliament elected country's first civilian president after more than 50 years of military rule this week. Hayden Kyaw, a key ally of democracy icon Aung San Suu Kyi, received 360 votes of 652 cast. Aung San Suu Kyi led National League for Democracy party swept to victory in historic elections in November. Suu Kyi is barred from becoming president because of her sons are British nationals. The newly elected president said his election is a victory for Suu Kyi. North Korea has jailed an American student for 15 years, accusing him of crimes against the state. Otto Warmbier, who was arrested while visiting the country, was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor by the Supreme Court of the country. A student of University of Virginia, Warmbier was detained in January for trying to steal an item bearing a propaganda slogan from his hotel in Pyongyang. Reports say that during the trial, Warmbier confessed to the offense. The United States has urged North Korea to pardon him and grant special amnesty and release. And now it's time to do a bit of a globe-trotting and see what all is also making news the worldwide.
Please have a seat.
Manifestar o meu mais
And in the showbuzz tonight, we will tell you how the Assassins swept the Asian Film Awards. Besides this, did we hear that big sorry coming from Oscar organizers? All that and much more, including Rolling Stones in Mexico.
The Assassin, a movie about a highly trained female assassin, swept the Asian Film Awards in Macau. The film bagged prizes for Best Film, Best Actress and Best Director, taking 8 out of 15 trophies. Set in the Tang Dynasty era in China, The Assassin stars Taiwanese megastar Shu Qi, playing a skilled female assassin sent back to her home province to kill its governor, who is also the man she loves. Oscars organizers have apologized amid a row over tone-deaf portrayal of Asians during this year's Academy Awards ceremony. In a recent letter to the Academy, double Oscar-winning director Ang Lee, Star Trek actor George Takei, Oscar-nominated documentary filmmaker Arthur Dong, and several others have criticized the tasteless and offensive skits regarding Asians. The Rolling Stones performed at Mexico City's Foro Sol venue early this week as part of the Stones' America Latina Ole tour through the region. The Stones, who last made a swing through the Americas back in 2006, have already visited Argentina, Colombia and Peru. They will be putting on their first performance in Cuba later this month. Over 100 international musicians from the Gustav Mahler Youth Orchestra performed in Abu Dhabi to mark the beginning of cultural celebrations for the opening of Louvre Abu Dhabi later this year. The ambitious project aims to promote the oil-rich United Arab Emirates as a leader in the global art world.
In Globe Culture this week, we get you a report on Batwa, tribe of Uganda. Well, once dense forests were home to them. Although the memories of the past still haunt the Batwas, they find it increasingly difficult to cope up with the new ecosystem, the new life, the new environment. And what they do for a living, they entertain tourists.
Once upon a time, Uganda's dense forests were home to the indigenous Batwa tribe for generations. Batwas, whose roots can be traced in Rwanda, Eastern Congo, Chad and Burundi, shared their habitat with some of the wildest animals as they lived as hunters and gatherers. They led simple lives with no interference from the outside world. There were no hospitals, so medicine could be plucked from trees. Forests fulfilled all their needs. Traditional methods were used to light fire by rubbing sticks. They prayed to gods in times of distress and sheltered in dark caves in the forest for safety. They depended on rain for water needs. While men hunted, women took care of their families at home. But all this is past now. About 2 decades ago, as part of conservation projects to protect mountain gorillas, Batwas were evicted from the forests. Today, they are recreating the lives of their ancestors by acting for tourists. This is part of a program to educate tourists about cultural history. Away from their natural home, the memories are still fresh.
My past life in the forest was better than my present state of living. We used to get everything we needed, from fruits to honey to meat. All these were available.
Some others find it exciting to sing and dance for tourists and are trying to find a balance in the changed times.
We love to sing songs to tourists. These songs are used to welcome the visitors and appreciate them for having traveled this far.
Life has turned upside down for many of the Batwa tribe members. Meeting the challenges of life outside forests appears tougher. However, it takes time. Until the time they fully accept and adapt this new life, all that's left are the fond memories they share with each other and tourists.
He's all of 5, he's from Palestine and a survivor of an arson attack that killed his family. Still coping to deal with the horrors, but he loves football. And his dream came true when he got an opportunity to meet the living legend of the soccer world, Cristiano Ronaldo.
Sole survivor of an arson attack at home that killed his family. 5-year-old Palestinian kid Ahmed Dawabsha is still recovering from severe burns 8 months after the incident. A ray of hope to this little child who loved football came in a meeting with his favorite star Cristiano Ronaldo in Spain.
Ahmed loves Cristiano Ronaldo. He loves football, but his first goal was to get out of the hospital.
On Tuesday, Ahmed, his uncle and his granddad embarked on this memorable journey from the Jordanian capital Amman to Madrid. A day later, the little boy met the soccer team of Real Madrid and the player he simply adored, three-time World Player of the Year, Cristiano Ronaldo. Ahmed's dream day was complete as the entire team signed a specially made Real jersey with his name on the back. Clearly delighted with this meeting, Ahmed then ran around the team's training facility. He was later given a tour of the club's Santiago Bernabeu stadium. The team arranged for the meeting after images of the bandaged boy wearing a Real Madrid jersey moved millions across the globe, and several people campaigned for little Ahmed's dream. And this wish-come-true meet in 5-year-old Ahmed's life now becomes a big source of strength to many, and a reminder to never ever give up hope. Dreams do come true.
And with that, it brings us to the end of this edition of World Konnect. Do send us your feedbacks as you always do. You can write to us. Our email ID is worldkonnect.ddnews@gmail.com. You can also follow us on the Facebook. But before we leave you, here is how President Barack Obama joined Broadway musical star Lin-Manuel Miranda in a freestyle rap. Take a look at this. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.
He's throwing up some words, I'm gonna say some freestyling that you never heard. Constitution, the POTUS, I'm freestyling, you know this. Obamacare, okay, I'm looking up because it was hopeless before you enacted that system. The Federalist Papers, Hamilton wrote the other 51 and greater. And Sonny and Bo is canine, it's insane, asinine. Oh my gosh, I'm freestyling down the line. And NASA, I wanna see if we can get over to Mars and rap more bars. I spit bars and leave a carbon footprint on it and lower my emissions. And this is Lin-Man freestyling in Congress. This is transmission. I hope in Congress works to our agenda. Innovation's important. You really gotta send to yourself and create something. We need a new justice for the Supreme Court. In short, oh my gosh, this is my book report. And immigrants, we get the job done. This is so fun. POTUS is holding up the signs. I'm not done. It's the Oval Office. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm there. It's so much more intimidating than if it was square. Opportunity knocks and I can't stop. I'm here with the president and my pops. And yo, the mic drops.